that the young men who lived here in Salem years ago in the Single Brothers house would have had their meals. And you'll learn more about that when you go into the room next door, about how they prepare them and those kinds of things, what they ate and that kind of thing. But when you came down, you didn't smell the smells of the kitchen. You smelled the smells of a candle room. Because for the 2 weeks that we have candle tea, we transform this room into a candle making room. So that we can show you how we make Moravian, well, beeswax candles, similar to the ones that we'll be using in our churches on Christmas Eve. We make a molded candle, and you can see I have a metal mold here, and if you look closely as I pan this by, you'll see that it'll make 8 candles. Now in Salem years ago, what they would have used for everyday life would have been a dipped candle. This was more like a company candle. But it's, you know, within a more special occasion. We'll love these as a very special occasion. So we have the mold. We need beeswax to make a beeswax candle, and we get ours. We used to get it in big blocks like this. But now it comes more in a slab like this. We actually get it from a beekeeper in Ohio. We just can't get it in the quantity that we need here. And so we get it from there. And it's shipped down months and months ago. And then it's melted in a proportion of 4 parts of beeswax with 1 part of beef tallow. Now, I'm assuming that most of you all know what tallow is. Sometimes the children in the group, I'll explain that it's the part that your parents might cut off the steak or whatever. And this is actually, we've become more visual in candle tea these days. This is what the beef tallow looks like. We get it from a meat packing plant in Sanford, North Carolina. So we've got all that ready, and it comes to us, and then it's melted together and put in our cans. We cheat a little bit because we actually have a real stove over here that we're doing. It's in like a double boiler kind of situation. We have cans and then a little piece of metal, and then the wax sits on top of those. You wouldn't want to just put a can of wax on the stove. That would not be good. So then we're ready. And in Salem years ago, they would have used mutton fat to mix with the beeswax. They would have had bees, and they would have had sheep. But the beef tallow works just fine. So the next thing I need for a candle is what? String. And the most important thing about a wick and a candle is that it burns. So we use, it's not very fancy, but it's with just 100% cotton tobacco twine. And the lady to my left is putting the string into the mold. And she has a hook. She's already a little beyond this point now, but you can't really see it, but there's a little tiny hook on it. This is like a crochet hook almost. It kind of reminds me of what my grandmother used to do. And then she'll catch each one of those strings and pull it through. When she has done that all 8 times, she takes another metal rod and runs it up like this and catches it. She'll catch all 8 of them and pull it tight, and then she turns it over. She's actually just completed this part, twisting it and opening it up. Now, I'm going to be pouring hot wax in here in just a second. So the important thing is that wax gets stopped and not go all the way through. And for that purpose, it's just T-shirt material. And it's folded, and it just stops the wax from going all the way through. When she's done that, this is actually the top of the candle, and this will be the bottom of the candle when we're finished. She ties that with a double loop, and it's called a surgeon's knot, I believe. But anyway, now the wax is ready. It's been melted. We want it to be very hot, and we want it to, then I just kind of pour slowly, and that way, hopefully we don't get any air bubbles. Now, those of you who've been to candle tea before know we always ask you what you think this looks like as I'm pouring. So, any ideas? Tea. It's about lunchtime. I'm kind of thinking tea. Well, it won't take it very long, and it's going to change color. I always like it when there's school groups in or children, because we say it's a little science lesson here, going from a liquid to a solid. This, depending on the weather. And cool weather is really better for candle making, or at least weather that's not humid. But in 10 to 20 minutes, you're going to be next door having sugar cake and coffee and sitting down for a moment. So I'm going to put this one in the window, and I'll use the one that I poured for the last group to show you how, hopefully, we get them out. And you can see already how it's just changed color and become a solid. Now, the first thing I have to do, and this is important, one time I forgot to do this, is take this off the bottom. We can use this cloth over and over again until it just gets to be too waxy or too holy to do its job. You can see this one's beginning to get some wax on it a little bit, but it's no problem at all. We can use that again. We don't have a use for the string, so we just throw that away. Moravians were pretty frugal, and still are, for the most part. Now, I've got 2 wicks here, you can see. And I don't want that, because first of all, it doesn't look very pretty, and secondly, it lights much better if it's just really one nice wick. So I take a little bit of wax on my fingers and twist, and I get the 1 wick. On Christmas Eve, we light use about 4,000 candles on Christmas Eve. Those candles are ready already. They're trimmed, and they're just sitting in shelves on the church, in the church waiting to go. But when you're lighting so many candles on Christmas Eve, it's nice if they're all got a little bit of extra wax helps. Now I have to cut off all this part that's extra on the top. And I'm gonna like I said, we recycle a lot. We can melt this down and use it over and over again. Sometimes we mix a little bit of the old with a little bit of the new. But it doesn't hurt the quality at all to reuse it. And I want to show you now, that's what the bottom of the candle will look like. Now, those of you who have been before, know that this is where I need your help. What I like to ask is that you think of something really, really nice that you can do for somebody else this Christmas. Some happy, wonderful thing that you can do to make somebody feel good. While you're doing that, I'm going to just gently pull and tug and see if we can't get these candles out. Sometimes, when my children were young, they didn't think I was very patient sometimes. And but with candles, you kind of have to be. If I jerked it, I would just pop the string. But here we go. Yay. Now I pass them down, and the young lady to my right will check to see if it's a good candle. And if it is, she will cut it to a length of 6.5 inches. The board is marked for that purpose. And then, again, the part that she cuts off, she just puts it back in the pot and we can reuse that. Again, the 6.5 inches, we just think it's nice to have them all a uniform size on the board. And then she passes it down, and the lady on her right is putting a pretty red crepe paper skirt on there. We used to do all that cutting of the paper by hand, and we have a machine that cuts it. But it's folded and cut, and then she'll rub a dowel across it, turn it back against itself, and then it frills out really pretty when she wraps it around. We think that the red is pretty and looks Christmassy. Another church might use a different color. The utilitarian purpose of the crepe paper is that it's flame resistant, and so it helps catch the wax on, when it drips. But our tradition of using candles at Love Feast dates back to 1747. The Moravians who were living in an area that's now Germany had taken refuge on the estate of Count Zinzendorf. And on Christmas Eve, the bishop gathered everyone together, and they all had just a very simple Christmas Eve service. At the end of their time together, the bishop gave every child that was there a lighted taper and had a candle on it. And he told them that when they went out into the dark night, to let the light of the candle going out into the darkness of the night remind them that Christ came into a dark world to bring light. That's the tradition that we continue today in Moravian churches all over the world, only everyone gets a candle today. Our church, which is Home Moravian, the one just across the square, has 4 services on Christmas Eve. You'd be welcome at any of those. You'd be welcome at any Moravian church. I just suggest that you come early. My favorite part of our service is when we sing the last hymn. We're all invited to lift our candles high to signify that Christ remains alive in the world. That hymn is Christ the Lord most glorious, now is born, oh shout aloud. So, thank you so much for coming to Candle Tea. I believe they're ready for you in the kitchen, or almost. We do have candles for sale at the end of the room if you'd like to purchase them. And I'd like you to notice the Advent wreath as you pass by. You're welcome.